Everyone should have the opportunity to wake up every day and do what they love. You already have your own unique perspective, your own unique voice. We're just here to help you on your journey of learning, discovery, and creation. My name is Aaron Nace. Welcome to Phlearn. Your creativity should never be limited by a tool or a piece of software. That's why we've created hundreds of hours of in-depth tutorials that break down the nuts and bolts of Photoshop, Lightroom, photography, and more. Whether you're opening one of the programs for the first time or you're already a working professional looking to further master your craft, we got tutorials that are designed to challenge and inspire you. We cover everything from high-end retouching to the magic of photo compositing to the fundamentals of capturing that perfect image in camera. Everything you need to keep on creating. Join our growing community of millions around the world and transform your passions into a way of life. Subscribe today and unlock your creativity. Welcome back to Phlearn Live. My name is Aaron Nace. I'm the founder of Phlearn, and I'm joined by the wonderful Cherie Jetha.
Hey.
Good morning, Cherie.
Good morning, everyone.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
You look wonderful. I like that your earrings match your dress.
Yeah, I went all spring today. I got the flowers on.
I matched my hair to my shirt.
Very good idea.
That was my matching today. I'm so excited. Today is our third day of our live broadcast. This is open to everyone all around the internet. Now, we're going to be answering your questions in Photoshop. So if you have a question for the Phlearn studio, just go to phlearn.com/live and you can submit your question as well as your image. Now, we're also doing a giveaway today.
Yes.
How exciting is that?
Super exciting.
So what are we giving away?
We are giving away a Phlearn Pro subscription.
That's right. You get a 1-year annual Phlearn Pro subscription, which means you get access to every single pro tutorial we've ever made, including ones that we are going to make.
Yay.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
Now, we're going to be giving this away in the chat, so be sure to stick around for the entire broadcast. Every few minutes, we're going to be giving away 5 lucky winners today, by the way. So about every 20 minutes, we're going to be running a raffle. We're going to tell you guys what to do, but it's going to be in the chat. So if you haven't joined the chat, how can they join the chat?
Yes, go to phlearn.com/live. And
there's a link right there at the very top that says join the conversation. Click on the chat so you can join the chat. The chat is right there on YouTube, and you can submit your questions and also chat with us because we've got
we want to hear from you.
Cherie and I are here in front of the camera, but we've got everyone around the house answering your questions and having fun with you guys on the chat. So if you haven't joined the chat, be sure to do so. Well, I think we are ready to...
We're ready to go?
Yeah, is there anything else we need to talk about?
Oh, we're pretty good.
I think we're pretty good. Let's go ahead and jump in. So if you have a question, again, go to phlearn.com/live. You can submit your question, and we're going to answer it here live. So let's go ahead. Let's start off with our first question.
Our first question is from Arman in India.
All right.
And he would like to know how to apply an image in Photoshop.
How to use apply image in Photoshop. Okay. Great question. So apply image in Photoshop is a really powerful tool. Now, basically the whole idea behind apply image is that it takes a snapshot of whatever you see in your photo, just literally everything you see, and it will put that on a new layer. It will also put that on a layer mask. So it's a really powerful tool, but because it can be used for so many different things, that's why I think it can get a little bit confusing. Like, have you ever used apply image?
What would you use it for?
All right, well, we'll just show you what I'll use apply image for, because that's the whole point of this live broadcast, isn't it? All right, let's go ahead and bring in our sample image for what I'm going to show you guys for apply image. So here's our sample image. Now, this is from unsplash.com. It's a great stock website. Okay, now to start off with, I'm just going to give a real quick example of how apply image works. So if I create a new layer in Photoshop, okay, and on this new layer, let's say that I just fill it with a color. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my foreground color, and let's just choose a nice warm color. I'm going to go to edit and down to fill, and we'll just choose to fill this with our foreground color. Now I'm going to change my layer blend mode from normal to soft light. All right, so we're just getting a little bit of color. I'm going to just lower down the opacity here, just so we have a little bit of warmth in my image. Now, with this set to soft light, basically I've got my background layer and I've got this layer. So if I create a new layer and go to apply image, basically what it's going to do is it's going to combine everything that I see and put it on one layer. So let's go to image and down to apply image. There we go. Now here in apply image, basically it does what it says. It takes whatever it sees and it applies it onto your new layer. So you can choose here to merge your layers together. Now it doesn't actually merge the layers, which is nice. This is a non-destructive way of editing. What it does is it just visually takes everything that's, everything that it sees, and then it puts that on your layer. So you can choose your different blending modes. You can have different blending modes. Most of the time I just suggest using a normal or a multiply blending mode, and I'm just gonna hit OK. So we'll show you guys how this works in a few different examples. So now, if I move this layer, what we're gonna see is this layer is literally a snapshot of everything I see, including basically my coloring layer and the background layer. So let's just go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. There we go. And you can see. Now I can still turn this layer off underneath it, but you can see this layer actually includes that little bit of coloring that I did with that. Let me just do this one more time just to make it a little bit more. I just want to do a few examples here so you guys know how this works. All right, so now I'm going to do a text layer, okay? And we're just going to have this say apply image. There we go. Now let's create a new layer above that. We'll go to image and down to apply image. And again, literally it just sticks everything that you see on one layer. Okay, is that pretty clear?
Yeah.
Is that, okay, cool. Now, what's the point of doing this? Well, for this application, the point of doing apply image is that sometimes there are tools like the liquify tool or the patch tool. Some tools can't be done on a blank layer. So you need a new layer that contains everything you see so you can work with these advanced tools.
Right.
Okay, so that's one use of apply image. Basically, if I want to liquify, now I can liquify with this layer. And this is a non-destructive way of editing because I'm not just like merging these layers together, I'm putting a snapshot on a new layer. Okay, now that's the first way of using apply image. And the next way of using apply image actually has to do with a layer mask. So the idea is the same. Basically, you're putting your image either on the layer, or you can put it on a layer mask as well. Now, I use apply image on my layer masks to basically restrict any changes that I make to the image to just the highlights or the shadows. So let's go ahead and show you guys how to brighten up the shadows of this image using apply image. So I'm going to create a curves adjustment layer and take my midpoint and just bring this a little bit brighter. There we are. Now you can see as of now, this just shows up everywhere, right? I'll turn this curves adjustment layer off and on. It shows up everywhere, which makes sense, right? Because it has a white layer mask on it, and a white layer mask is going to be completely visible everywhere. A black layer mask is going to be completely invisible. So before, what we did is we just used apply image on a regular layer, and it just took a copy of that image and put it on a layer. Simple concept. Now we're going to use apply image on the layer mask. It's going to take everything it sees and put it on the mask. So let's go to image and down to apply image. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, again, our layer is going to be merged. Blending mode is going to be normal. Let's hit OK. So let's take a look at what actually happened. I'm going to hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask. And this is what my layer mask looks like. It looks like my image, right?
Yes.
So that's the whole deal. You apply the image onto a layer or a layer mask. So that's what's going on. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. Let's slide back to the multicam view, hang out with Cherie. So Cherie, if you paint white on a layer mask, what does that do?
It lightens it.
It makes it visible. Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. And if you paint black,
It's invisible.
it's invisible. Exactly. So white on a layer mask, visible, black is invisible. So basically what I did is I applied the image onto the layer mask. So the lighter parts of the layer mask just means that the layer is going to be visible there.
Yes.
And the darker parts means the layer is going to be invisible there. So
Yeah.
it's cool, right? It's like
Very cool.
basically you can use the image itself to basically say whether it's going to be visible or invisible in the highlights or the shadows, because it just uses the lights and darks of the image itself to define the visibility of that layer.
Great.
You're like,
Hey,
okay.
I hope that helps, Armand.
Okay,
India.
so let me go ahead and show you guys this. I got one more like explanation to go.
Okay.
So basically, so this curves adjustment layer, what it's doing is I'm brightening my image, okay? I'm brightening my image, but the visibility of this curves adjustment layer is restricted now. We can see it's visible in our highlights and it's not visible in our shadows, right? Because again, white on a layer mask is visible, black on a layer mask is invisible. So if I want this curves adjustment layer to only be visible in my shadows, what I'm gonna do is invert my layer mask. Okay, so I'm gonna hit Control or Command I to invert that layer mask. And now this curves adjustment layer is not visible in the highlights. It's only visible in the shadows. Okay, so let's take a look at this layer mask. The layer mask, again, it's an invert of the image, but looking at this, I hope it starts to make sense because the light areas in the photo are now black, and black on a layer mask means invisible, right? So basically what I'm telling this curves adjustment layer is to be invisible over the light areas of the photo and to be visible over the dark areas of the photo. So if it's only visible over the dark areas and I'm using a curves adjustment layer to lighten, then basically what I'm getting is I'm lightening up the dark areas while not affecting the light areas at all. So I'm able to bring up my darks and not expose my highlights. Now, if I disable my layer mask, we can see what this looks like. You can see it starts to overpower and starts to overexpose our highlights. So let's enable the layer mask. You can see it doesn't touch my highlights. Disable that layer mask and it's blowing out my highlights. Okay, so that's basically apply image. So you can use it to apply what you see on a regular layer. You can also use it to work on a layer mask and make a layer visible or invisible based on the highlights or the shadows of your photo. Great question.
Yes.
Is it clear or is it still like?
It's pretty good.
It's like a little crunchy still?
No, I'm good.
You're good, okay.
It's early. I'm still waking up. I've already had one coffee this morning.
Let's get some coffee in here. Yeah, I'm just like trying to figure out.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna drink up and I'll be super cool very
No,
fast.
you're good. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm explaining it well enough.
Oh, yes, for
Because some
sure.
of these things are pretty complicated.
Yes,
and I'm like, how do I explain this? I want to just show them, but I want to make sure. Let us know in the chat, by the way, how we're doing and how we're explaining some things. Because I'm always like, I'm always wanting to know if this is getting across in a clear manner.
Or if you'd like something repeated, let us know.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
So now it's time for our first giveaway.
Okay.
So we invite everyone to join the chat.
Yes, so if you guys are watching, sorry to cut you off.
It's all right.
If you're watching on phlearn.com/live, on the very top of the page, there's a link to our chat. So make sure to go to the chat. Now, how do they enter?
And once you're there, be sure to type in I love Phlearn so that you're eligible for the raffle.
All they have to do is type in I love Phlearn to the chat?
Yes.
That's all they have to do, and they're entered?
And they're in.
And then what do they win?
They win a year's subscription to Phlearn Pro.
A year's subscription to Phlearn Pro?
No. Oh, I wish it were me. I wish I could.
You should get in
Can
that
I be
chat
right back?
and start. That's right. And with your Phlearn Pro subscription, you get access to every single tutorial we've ever made, as well as Lightroom presets, Photoshop actions. There's so many exclusive bonuses just for Phlearn Pro subscribers. Not to mention, our broadcast Thursday and Friday is only available for Phlearn Pro subscribers. So you can join us tomorrow and Friday.
Yes.
How fun is that?
It's very good.
Okay,
so we're taking, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We got a question from Nick in California.
Okay. Let's wait on Nick's because I think we're just doing the raffle for 3 minutes,
For 3 minutes? Okay.
It's just 3 minutes. So right now, get in there, type in I love Phlearn into the chat because we're almost 3 minutes in and it's about time to give away our Phlearn Pro subscription.
Yes, our
this is
first
exciting.
giveaway. Yay.
I feel like an actual game show kind of.
I know.
Isn't
Do you
it
want
fun?
me to spin the wheel?
Yeah, let's get a wheel. Let's get a wheel in here. Let's get something to spin. Spin my tablet pen.
Koa, come here. No, I'm kidding.
He's asleep on the floor.
Yeah, so this is great.
Yeah. How we doing on our giveaway, folks? 2 minutes. We've got a really great team working behind the scenes. making all of your dreams come true.
Yes, keeping things running smoothly.
You know, I think you and I probably have the easiest job. All we have
I
to
agree.
Yeah,
I agree completely. I have so much admiration for Angela, Seth, Mike,
yeah.
Jack.
They're
Jack's
all-
so great. He makes the best coffee here.
Yeah, watch out, Jack.
Sorry-
You might wind
sorry,
up in
Mike.
Cherie's suitcase on the way back to Canada.
Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. You have a really good setup here too.
All right, I love it. So remember, guys, it's all one word. If you want to win a year of Phlearn Pro, just type in "I love Phlearn." It's one word, it's lowercase, and you're automatically going to be entered into the raffle. So "I love Phlearn," all one word, all lowercase. By the way,
We have 1 minute to go, so
we
come
have
on, guys.
1
keep going.
minute to go. This is the time. Get in your entries. If you're watching on phlearn.com/live, be sure to click on the top of the page. Get in that chat, and that's how you're going to participate
That's right.
in
I
our
love Phlearn.
raffle.
I love Phlearn.
All right, I love Phlearn. And you know what? I do love Phlearn. And coincidentally, that is actually the password
To the Wi-Fi.
to the Wi-Fi at our studio.
Yes. Now everyone knows.
Seth is looking at me
Yeah,
like
it's gonna
very
be-
angrily right now.
30 seconds to go, guys.
So if you
I
ever
love
make
Phlearn.
it into our studio, which we're not going to broadcast the address of that live. We've actually had, believe it or not, we've actually had people sneak into this building. We have a pretty secure building here
Yes,
with
it is.
beep beep codes and everything. We've had people break into the Phlearn studio
Just to meet you.
just to meet the team. Yes.
You.
That- Believe it or not, it's happened. 2 people have made it past security.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
Do they get to you?
Yeah, they've definitely got in the studio and it's just like, hello, how's it going? We hang out, it's fun, but it's definitely,
Yeah, very strange first meeting.
very strange. So, let's announce our first winner. You want to say congratulations?
I want to say congratulations to George Will.
George Will, congratulations on
Yes.
being our first Phlearn Pro winner. You win an annual subscription to Phlearn Pro. This is access to every single tutorial we have ever made. So if you guys did win this raffle, no big deal. We're giving away 4 more annual subscriptions during this broadcast.
That's right. So stick around and try your luck again.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Let's get on to our next Photoshop question.
And this is how to use the puppet tool.
How to use the puppet tool.
It's from Nick in California.
Nick in California. Well, let me go ahead and open up. I've got a sample image ready to go here for the puppet warp here. There we go. Let's go ahead and open this up. Now, Cherie, have you ever used the puppet warp
I
tool?
have not. I hadn't had need to.
Have no need to. Well, maybe after this example,
Yeah, I will give it a shot.
you're going to change your mind. And
All
say,
right.
Okay.
Show me.
So the puppet warp tool basically allows you to move around pixels. Let's say my arm is stuck in this position in a photograph. You can actually make a selection of my arm and then move parts of my arm. So if you want to reconfigure a subject, maybe you want to just move them subtly, or you're doing a composite photo and you need items in your composite photo to line up a little bit better,
Yes.
the puppet warp tool is a really great tool. So let's go ahead and show you guys how to use it. Now, the first thing that I'm doing, I chose an image with a subject who's jumping. The reason I did that is because she's got pretty clear, it'll be easy to select her out from the background. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and start by grabbing my magic wand tool. So W for the magic wand tool, and we're just gonna basically make a selection. I'm gonna start by selecting the outside of my image here. There we go. We'll start with the outside, and then I'm going to inverse my selection. There we go. I'm gonna hit Q for our quick mask just to make sure basically I'm just painting. This is going to allow me to clean up my selection and just make sure that only our subject is selected. Because again, I'm gonna warp my subject, so I wanna make sure that she is selected. Now here, while I'm using my quick mask, there we go. While I'm using my quick mask, I'm gonna be sure that I include the soles of her shoes, because the soles of her shoes were white, and that was meaning they were not getting selected, because my background is white too, so the magic wand tool just got a little confused. So let's make sure to include the soles of her shoes. There we go. Okay, now all this is just to make a selection. So we've made our selection. It looks great. Let's just include her hand too. Beautiful. And I gotta get her arm. Now you can use any selection tool you'd like. In this case, I'm trying to go pretty quick here, so I just started with the magic wand tool. If you wanted to make a more advanced selection, you could use the pen tool. So let's hit Q for quick mask again. Now I'm gonna go to select and down to inverse. There we go. And that's basically going to allow me to just select my subject. So now that my selection is around my subject, I'm gonna duplicate this to a new layer. So I'm gonna hit Control or Command J, and you can see that's just gonna duplicate my subject to a new layer. There we go. We can put her wherever. And I'm gonna create a background underneath that. We'll just make it solid color white. All right, and let's go ahead and realign our subject here. So now we've got our subject cut out on a new background. This is the perfect time to do a puppet warp. Let's just make sure there's nothing else included in my subject. Now you want to just make sure that you have a really nice selection around your subject, and then you're going to load in your puppet warp. Okay, so now that my subject is selected, I'm going to go ahead and go to Edit and down here to Puppet Warp. So Puppet Warp, there's a few things that you can do with Puppet Warp. First of all, I'm going to click on this Show Mesh option. So basically it divides your layer into a mesh that can be edited. So with this mesh active, you now can click on points on your image. And using the Puppet Warp, basically you want to click on like main joints. Like your wrist would be one main joint, your elbow, that would be another main joint. And you want to click on these joints, and basically that uses those joints as the areas that you're going to use to bend and warp your image. There we go, and we'll click on the head. So you can see I kind of clicked on all the major joints in my image. Now, I'm gonna go to Show Mesh. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. We have our individual points, and now that we have our points, you can see it. We did basically on each of the major joints of the body. Now I can click on any of these joints and move them around, and it's gonna keep the rest of the image the same. Now it can get a little bit weird sometimes when you do like the legs, so you may need to add some different points here. But basically I can completely reconfigure the pose of my subject. So if you want your subject's leg to go back a little bit farther, I can put a point there and I can make her toe point a little bit more. Now sometimes it's gonna look a little bit weird, okay, especially if you do like that, it's gonna look pretty weird. So let's just undo that. So you want to make sure you just make these adjustments as you need to. So you can bring that down. Basically it just allows you to move different parts of your subject or different parts of your image to create different poses and fit into different situations. So, you know, in this case, let's say we want our subject to look like they're, you know, jumping a little bit higher. Let's just delete that point. By the way, if you get to a point and you're like, I don't like what it did, just hit the delete key and you can delete that. So we can bring her arm out a little bit more. There we go. And you're gonna see based on how you do your points, it's going to also affect other areas in your image. There we go. So we can bring that out as well. And that's pretty cool. Now, again, using the Puppet Warp tool, a lot of the time I find things just start to look a little bit unnatural. So let's just delete that point. So if you get to the point where your image is looking a little bit unnatural, just kind of bring it back to its normal place. All right, let's go ahead and hit that checkbox, and we can see the before and after. So here's our before and our after. So you see, I'm able to basically reconfigure the pose of my subject. You don't want to move it too far because it really starts to look like not realistic if you move it too far.
Almost cartoon-like.
Almost cartoon-like. Or if you're going for a cartoon effect, you could most definitely do that for a cartoon effect. But it is really interesting to see that you can completely change the pose of your subject. Now, this can be helpful if your subject, you just want maybe a little bit more dynamic movement. This can be helpful. It can also be helpful for compositing. If you need things to just line up a little bit better, this can be super helpful to help to make your composite actually work. All right, well, that's how we do.
It's very similar to the Liquify tool you demonstrated yesterday.
It is similar to Liquify. The reason why this is different from Liquify is that Liquify will actually just allow you to push and pull any pixel, and it has no relationship to other areas in your image. Okay. So this tool basically creates a mesh. More specific. It's going to be more specific, exactly, yes. And it'll allow you to kind of like move like joints. It's mostly made for like moving joints of people's, you know, hands and arms and things like that.
It's too bad they wouldn't let us do this in photojournalism.
Right?
It's a lot of fun. We'd have great news every day.
It is a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a really, really cool tool, and you can use it again for like you know, puppetry. Yes. You know, like making people look like caricatures. Yes. It's also a really cool tool for that.
Maybe fun for kids' birthday cards even.
Oh, I like it.
I'm thinking. So we're moving on to image 29.
29.
And it's from the Netherlands, from Edwin in Gouda. And he's asking how to even out skin tones, in particular the legs that seem to be darker than the rest of the skin. Mm-hmm. And it's for a client that would like that to happen. He doesn't know how.
Okay, good question. So Edwin, thanks for sending over your raw photo. By the way, this really helps out on our end. I've got more information to work with in a raw photo. So if you guys have a question you'd like answered and you'd like to submit an image, please do so on phlearn.com/live, and you can submit your raw photos, which is really great. Yep. So working with the raw photo means you have the maximum amount of information possible in your photograph. So if the exposure isn't exactly right or the color isn't exactly right, that's when you want to work on your raw photo. So you can do this in Lightroom or in Photoshop in Adobe Camera Raw. So let's go ahead and open up the image and see what we got. Okay, so is this Edwin?
Edwin.
All right, this is Edwin's image. So this is a very common thing that we see. Basically, you have a light coming from the top. My guess is you use something like a beauty dish to light this image. So we have a decent bit of light on the top, but we have some fall off here on the bottom of the image, meaning the light is not hitting our subject's legs and making our subject's legs just a little bit darker. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is basically figure out a way to make a selection around the bottom part of my image and make that lighter. So here in Adobe Camera Raw, and again, you can do this in Lightroom as well. Let's grab our graduated filter. I'm gonna go ahead and reset my local settings here and turn on my mask so I can see what I'm doing. Now I'm gonna click and drag from the bottom up. There we go. Let's just go ahead and zoom out just a little bit. Command minus to zoom out. And there we go. So you can see, because I turned my mask on, this is the area that's going to get affected in my photograph. Let's go ahead and click on our fit in view for the zoom. Now let's go ahead and turn our mask off and our overlay off as well. And what I want to do is just increase our exposure just a little bit. So as I increase my exposure, you're going to see this is just going to be the bottom part of the image that's getting brighter. The top part is going to stay the exact same. Okay, because this is just the area that we're affecting is the bottom part of the photo. Now, I'm also going to take my shadow levels and we're just going to bring those just a little bit brighter as well. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and take the saturation down on this as well. It's a little bit too saturated here on the bottom of the image. So we're going to take the saturation down as well and see if we can balance the top part of the image with the bottom part of the image. Okay. So it's definitely looking better. Let's go ahead and turn our mask or our overlay back on, because I think we could stretch this just a little bit higher there. There we go. And there we go. Let's go ahead and bring our saturation down a little bit more. And then I think we could kind of warm up this area in color temperature just a little bit. And I'm trying to match skin tone here. So it's a little bit on the cooler side, trying to warm this up a little bit as well. All right, and maybe we'll just increase our exposure just a little bit as well. There we go. So all of this is happening in Adobe Camera Raw, which is really, really nice. Now, this was basically affecting the bottom part of my image. If you want to take this one step further, I can then just select the legs and our subject's hands if we'd like. And you can do this with your adjustment brush. So let's click on our adjustment brush. I'm going to reset our local settings here again. Let's make our brush a little bit larger here. And I'm just going to paint right over top of our subject's legs. So before I was basically saying, hey, all the area on the bottom of the photo, let's make that a selection. And now I'm just going to say, you know what, just select the legs and the hands right there. So I'm able to just paint in the area that I'd actually like to be affected. There we go. Okay, so now that I've painted that in, I can then go one more round and increase my exposure again if I want to do that. Okay, and I can start to work on my color just a little bit, because you can see the color here is, it's a little bit more magenta than the top of the photo. So we're gonna take this tint slider, which will go from green to magenta, and I'm just gonna take this and drag that to the left just a little bit. And that's gonna reduce the amount of magenta in that area and help me to color match just a little bit better. And let's take down the amount of blue as well, or down the amount of yellow rather. Okay, so now you can see we're starting to color match just a little bit better from the top and the bottom. So let's go ahead and take a look at our before and after. So here's our before image, and here's our after image. Pretty good.
Very good. Nice tonality.
I think it's looking really good. Now, in my opinion, I would like to increase the shadow levels on our subject's face as well. So what I would do to take this one step further, I'm gonna grab our radial filter here. Let's go ahead and reset the local correct settings for our radial filter. We're gonna click and drag, and I'm gonna increase the shadow levels of our radial filter. Now, let me just increase the exposure just a little bit so you guys can see. With the radial filter, you have the option to click outside, which will do everything outside, or inside, and that'll just do whatever's inside of the selection. So in this case, I want it to be inside. Okay, let's bring our exposure down, and I just want to bring up my shadow levels quite a bit. It will bring our exposure up just a little bit and our highlights down. And doing this, basically, I just want to get a little bit more detail in the face and in these shadow areas. There we go. I think we're looking really good. So let's go ahead and turn that overlay off. All right. Well, I think we're off to a really, really good place with this image. So the last thing that I'm noticing here is we do have a little bit of a blown out area here on the bracelets. And we can see that I have my highlight warning turned on. So that's just a little bit blown out, meaning we don't have any detail there. Not a big deal. I'm gonna take my adjustment brush. We're gonna go ahead and reset our settings. And with our adjustment brush, I'm just gonna paint, let's turn our mask on here. I'm just gonna paint right over top of the little bracelet here. There we go. And let's just go ahead and bring our exposure down just a little bit. There we go. And as we bring our exposure down just a little bit, you can see we were actually able to recover that area. So it's no longer overexposed. It's actually properly exposed as well. All right. Well, there we have it. I think we did a pretty nice job on the image.
Very good, yes.
So here's the before. You can see we did quite a bit of work to get her the skin tone of her legs to try to match the top part of her body. We lowered the exposure here, and we increased the shadow levels on the top part of the image, and I think it really, really helped out. So all this is done in Adobe Camera Raw. You can also do all of these adjustments in Lightroom. The adjustment brush, the graduated filter, the radial filter, those are all available in Lightroom as well. So then to finish the image off, we just hit open this image as an object. Want to make sure to open it as a smart object. There we go. And now we can continue to work in Photoshop. We could do our retouching if we wanted to. We could do some more color work. We could go and fine tune little details. And if you ever want to get back to your image in Adobe Camera Raw, because we opened it as a smart object, just double click right here on the thumbnail, and it's going to open the image back in Adobe Camera Raw. And you could go back, for instance, let's click on a graduated filter. You could go back and select this graduated filter and change your settings if you wanted to, and it's going to be changing the settings of basically of the original adjustment you made to the photo. All right, very cool.
Very good.
Good question.
Yes.
Thank you so much for submitting your image. That was really fun.
That was, yes. Now we're working with image 27.
Image 27.
Yes, please. And this is from Joni in Mississippi. She's asking how to get the information and color back into the sky and water without disturbing the subject in the picture. She says it's when she tries the temperature and color adjustments, it's affecting the catamaran's sail.
It's affecting the sail. Okay, great question. So obviously, we've actually covered this in our live broadcast before. It's like super common. You take a picture and the sky is too bright. It happens to all of us all the time. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna open this image in Adobe Camera Raw. And Joni, thank you for sending in your raw file. That was a good job doing that, because if I can work on a raw file here, that means I'm gonna be able to work with the maximum information as possible. It's a DNG, so that's an Adobe Digital Negative file. So it's a perfect file format. And being able to work on a raw file here in the studio means we can work with the most information possible, so we can do the best job on your images. But also when you're working on your images, work on them as raw files as well. That's gonna really help out. So I love Photoshop. It's a really great tool for doing all kinds of local adjustments. But when it comes to exposure adjustments and major white balance or color adjustments, I highly suggest working on your raw file.
Definitely.
You can do that in Adobe Camera Raw. You can also do that in Lightroom. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our image here. Now this is our raw file, and this is shot with a Nikon D3300, looking really, really great. And what I want to go ahead and do is make a selection around our sky. Now, this the best way to do this here, we have a few different selection tools within Adobe Camera Raw. We have our adjustment brush, we have our graduated filter, and our radial filter. Now in this case, I want to kind of make sure that I paint around the sail. So I'm going to start off with my adjustment brush, and we'll see how it works. All right, let's go ahead and reset our correction settings there. Make our brush just a little bit larger. I'm going to turn on this mask option, and that's going to allow me to simply see what I'm doing. So I can see where I'm actually painting in, and keep in mind that the area that I'm affecting is highlighted in green. So the green is just there to show me what I'm actually going to be working on. So this is not actually the change that I'm making. This is just here to show me what I'm actually going to be changing. There we go. Okay, we're looking really, really good. So now that that area is a selection, let's go ahead and turn our mask off. I'm going to turn our overlay off too. And what I want to do is I want to target the light areas of my photo. So that's here in our highlights. So I'm going to take my highlight value, and we're going to click and drag that from the right to the left. So you're going to see basically it's going to get that area just a little bit darker. Now that's looking pretty good. I'm going to take my exposure down just a little bit as well. Okay. Now you can see as I bring my exposure down, it's starting to not really look real at all. So let's just keep our exposure where it is. Okay. We're going to keep our exposure where it is because that was just like not really working. Now the next thing I'm going to try is just bringing our color temperature down just a little bit, and that's going to try to put just a little bit more blue into our sky. There we go. Now just a little bit, we want to be pretty subtle here, and the reason is the selection that I just made with just the brush tool here, it's basically I just painted it in there, and it's not a very accurate selection. In other words, if I was in Photoshop and I was basically like using the pen tool to make a very accurate selection of the sky, it would be a little bit better of a selection, and you could do more advanced edits here. You could darken the sky down even more. But because we're just using a pretty general selection, I don't want to go too far, or you're gonna see it, and the selection's gonna break down a little bit. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is just bring up our clarity a little bit for the sky, and we're going to bring up our saturation, and that's again just going to affect our sky as well. Now again, at this point you can see it looks pretty good on the sky, but we are seeing some areas that it's kind of like bleeding over, starting to affect the sail and this, the background a little bit more. So if you need to go in, you can definitely, let's turn our overlay back on. I'm going to click here on our selection, and here I can actually choose to add or remove different areas from the selection. So I'm going to choose a fairly large brush and kind of feather this in here over top of the water, because my thinking is if the sky is more blue, the water should probably reflect that, right?
Of course.
So let's go ahead and bring the same effect here in the water a little bit more, and then we're going to choose a small brush, and I'm just going to paint right up to the edge of the sail, just to kind of clean up the edge of my selection just a little bit more. There we go. All right. And that looks really great. So if I paint on the inside of the sail at all, just click on this erase option. There we go. And that's going to allow me, you just want to choose a real small brush, and you can actually just erase it away, so it only affects the areas that you want to be affected. There we go. All right, well, I think we're looking really good. We have a lot more information in our sky. Let's just go ahead, get back to the add icon. Kind of clean up the sail a little bit up there. All right, so we have a lot more information in our sky. Let's go ahead and take a look at our before and our after. So here in the before, you can see it is pretty limited. We're not seeing a ton of detail in the sky, and here in the after, we're looking a little bit better. So again, just make sure to click right down here if you're in Adobe Camera Raw. Click down here on your settings. Make sure it says open in Photoshop as Smart Object. That's super important. And then we can open this object. There we go. And we can continue to work on our file. So now that I'm here in Photoshop, we do have a few more advanced selection tools in Photoshop. So if I wanted to make a selection, let's just use, for instance, our magic wand tool. So W for the magic wand tool, which is going to allow me to make a selection of the sky just a little bit better. I'm kind of waiting for the magic wand tool in Adobe Camera Raw. Like, come on, give me the magic wand tool in Adobe Camera Raw. This is a message to you, Adobe. All right, so I'm able to make that selection. Now I can just go in here and I can do a little bit more work, like a hue saturation adjustment layer. Okay, I can increase my saturation. It's only going to be visible in that area. Okay, I don't have to worry about it overlapping the sail at all. I can maybe bring well, let's leave the lightness where it is. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. And then again, just given the same logic that we had earlier, if the sky is a bit more blue, I'm like, okay, the ground or the water should be a little bit more blue as well. So I'm just kind of painting this white on my layer mask where the water is, and that's going to bring some of the color from the sky into the water as well. All right.
And the reflection from the sail too.
And the reflection from the sail, which is really, really nice.
Yes.
There we go. And we have a really, really nice image. So you can see, the biggest thing, raw images are so powerful.
Yes.
They capture so much
So much
information,
information.
and you never know what is hidden inside of that photograph until you start your post-production process.
Sure.
And that's why I love Photoshop, I love Lightroom and post-production, because you can take all the potential that's hidden inside your image and you can really, really bring it out, and it can make your image stand out. Like with this boat image.
It's so much more dramatic now.
It's much more dramatic, and sometimes you capture the perfect shot in camera and you don't need to edit, and that's perfect. Other times you really need to bring that information back. So I'm happy we were able to work on your image, Joni from Mississippi. Thank you so much.
And you're feeling generous?
I am feeling very generous.
It's time for another giveaway.
It's time for another giveaway
Yes.
already?
So
what are we giving away?
we are giving away 1 year subscription to Phlearn Pro.
That's right.
And all you have to do is go to phlearn.com/live and click the link to the chat.
There's a link at the very top of this page.
Very top of
it says
the page.
join the conversation. So go ahead and click that link. You'll go to YouTube where there's a chat, and then all they have to do
Is type in I love Phlearn.
I love Phlearn.
I love Phlearn.
And I do love Phlearn.
I love Phlearn. I love Phlearn.
Type in I love Phlearn, make it all one word. So ILOVEPHLEARN, make it all one word. Just type that in the chat. You can do that right now.
Yes.
We got a raffle. It's going on
For 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
So
You
best
got
of luck.
3 minutes to type in I love Phlearn. At the end of 3 minutes, we're going to announce our winner.
Our second winner.
Our second
this
winner.
morning.
Now-
Yes, we have 5 giveaways.
5 giveaways during this
Yes.
broadcast. Man, that is
It's a
just
good day. It's a good
so
session.
cool. It's a really, really fun time. I'm having a great time. So you guys are going to win a year of Phlearn Pro, which is every single tutorial we've ever worked. We're talking about hundreds, thousands of hours of
Yes.
education. Anything you
amazing.
could ever want to learn, Lightroom, Photoshop, photography, it's all there. Not to mention, with the Phlearn Pro subscription, you get instant access to all of our new tutorials that we haven't even made yet. And we have a fun, I almost cussed right there.
Thank you for holding back.
We have a fun lineup of tutorials coming up. We've got
Yes.
so many great things.
2 minutes to go, guys. I love Phlearn.
I love Phlearn in the chat. We have just learned so much from this pro subscription. It has been the absolute, like the best, funnest thing we've ever done here at Phlearn.
Yes.
We've learned so much from our subscribers. Their feedback has really helped us out. And I feel like we are creating better content on so many different levels than we really ever have created. So
For sure,
I'm
yes.
personally just so excited about all the content that we're going to create this year and next year and the years moving forward.
Very good. And we look forward to that.
I'm having an absolute great time, and we're just going to be making better and better content, and you joining Phlearn Pro means that we're able to create even better content. So
now, in our afternoon session,
Yes.
there'll be more giveaways.
There'll be more giveaways.
So for those that don't get lucky in this one, please join us at 4 o'clock, 4 to 6 o'clock, and you'll have a chance to try your luck there again.
Exactly. So we got 1 more minute, guys. Go ahead and submit just type I love Phlearn right there in the chat. That's all you have to do. How easy
1
is
minute
that?
to go, guys.
And you'll be automatically entered to win a year of Phlearn Pro subscriptions. Now, I do want to say this Thursday and Friday, so tomorrow and Friday,
30 seconds, Eric.
30 seconds,
30 seconds.
get it in there. Tomorrow and Friday is exclusive for Phlearn Pro subscribers.
That's right.
So
if you get it today,
If you get it today, you can join our chat and join our live broadcast Thursday and Friday. And we're also doing 30% off right now. So if you go to phlearn.com/live, there's a banner on the bottom of that page. You can click there and you can save 30%. And it's like the best time to join now. It's our
Sure.
year anniversary of Phlearn Pro.
Yes.
You get 30% off and you get exclusive access to our live broadcast tomorrow and Friday.
very good.
It's kind of the perfect storm.
I love Phlearn. A few more seconds.
You're such a good co-host.
Oh, well, thank you
I
for
am loving
having
this.
me. It's so exciting to be
It's
here.
an awesome time. Cherie and I met just a few weeks ago in Niagara Falls, Canada.
That's right. And
Instant friendship,
just like that.
just like that.
Aaron and the gracious Katie and I hung up a lot.
Yeah.
So we have a winner.
We have a winner already?
We do, and you're going to help me say this.
Okay. Gabriel Luis Silva Lorenco.
Wins.
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo.
You win a year of Phlearn
Congratulations.
Pro. Congratulations, Gabrielle. That's such a cool thing. I'm so excited to have you as a part of our Phlearn Pro community. So you're going to have instant access to every single tutorial we've ever made, Lightroom presets, Photoshop actions, all kinds of incredible exclusive content just for Phlearn Pro subscribers.
Yay, very good.
So exciting. Well, congratulations. We're going to be giving away 3 more Phlearn Pro subscriptions during this broadcast. So it's time for, are we ready for our next
We
question?
are indeed. It's an interesting question. It's from Nicholas in Indiana. He says there are a lot of advertisement agencies there asking and wanting to know about making GIFs.
Okay.
He'd like to know the easiest way to do a GIF.
The easiest way to make a GIF. Yes. Well, I think that there are some programs out there, by the way, that make making GIFs very easy. So that is one way. If you don't want to mess with Photoshop, you don't want to get complicated at all, you can most definitely just download one of these programs. They have them for your phone and also for your computer. Now, I'm going to show you how to make a GIF here in Photoshop. So making a GIF itself is really easy. Basically what a GIF is, it's an animated image, right?
Yes.
So all you need frames, right? An animation consists of frames. So like, someone's like here, and then they're here, and then they're here, and you just
like a cartoon movie.
Like a cartoon, yeah, exactly. So you need different images to put together to make your animated GIF.
Right.
Okay, so how you make those images is totally up to you. Now you can make what's known as a cinemagraph, okay, and that is used making images most often using the video mode on your digital SLR or your mirrorless camera, or even an iPhone can do it. You can also make GIFs from still images as well.
Right.
So let's go ahead and see what we can do with our still images.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead here in Photoshop, and I'm just going to see if I can grab a sample image here. There we go. And basically what I'm looking for is an image that I can adjust slightly, and with these adjustments basically make it look as though some type of movement is happening in my image. All right, some type of movement or some type of change. Now I'm going to use this flower as our example here. So let's go ahead and download this photo. There we go. Let's open this up here in Photoshop. There we are. And I'm going to hit F for full screen. So what I'm going to do, again, GIFs can be made in a lot of different ways. They can be used, basically it's just a couple of frames that you can cycle through to create an animation. So in this case, I'm going to change the color of this flower a couple of times in this GIF. So the first thing I need to do is actually make the change to the flower. I'm going to grab a hue saturation adjustment layer. We're going to go ahead and choose the color to edit. I'm going to choose reds. Let's go ahead and use my eyedropper to select the color that I want. Okay. And then I'm just going to switch my hue. We're going to just go to the right a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that same exact adjustment layer. Let's go to our, there we go, our magentas, and we're going to go to one more color, and I'm going to do the same thing. There we go. I kind of want to do like a bluish purple. Okay. So now I've got a few different versions of my flower. So with these different versions, these are just on different layers, right? So now my different layers, basically I need a way to load these as individual frames here in Photoshop. So I'm gonna go to Window and down to Timeline. So Photoshop can do animations. Did you know Photoshop can do animation? Cherie knew that. Well, you know everything.
I don't. That's why I'm a Phlearner.
So for those of you guys who didn't know, Photoshop can do animation. So let's go to our timeline here. Now, you have an option. Here you can create a video timeline. That's for editing video, or frame animation. That's for making GIFs. So let's click on frame animation, and I'm gonna hit create. Okay. Now, here are the frames on that we're gonna be loading. So I'm gonna create a couple of new frames here. We're gonna use 4 frames, okay? Now for the first frame, it's just gonna be the background layers visible. That looks good. For the second layer, I'm gonna turn this hue saturation adjustment layer on. For our third layer, I'm gonna choose the second one. And for our fourth layer, we're gonna choose this one. So if I hit play, it's just gonna cycle through them really quickly. Now I want a little bit of a delay. So I'm gonna hold shift and click on my layers, click on my different frames rather. I'm gonna choose my delay. I'm gonna choose a 1 second delay, and now I'm gonna hit play, and I'm not doing anything, but it's just gonna cycle through all of our different colors, and this is our animation. So now basically we've done all the work of the GIF. Okay, we've created our different frames, we've chosen how they're going to cycle. Now all I have to do is save this out as a GIF, and it's going to include animation. So let's go to image. I'm gonna just resize this because it's probably really large and I don't want it to be so large on the internet that it's gonna take forever to load. So I'm gonna go ahead and resize this. I'm gonna make this 800 pixels wide. There we go. Now you can see we still have our animation intact. Everything looks good. Now it's time to go ahead and save out our animated GIF. I'm gonna go to File and down to Export and over to Save for Web. Okay, now here in Save for Web, you wanna choose your format here. You wanna choose GIF. By the way, let's open up, Cherie, let's open up the chat because I wanna get a little bit of, I wanna stir the pot a little bit.
Okay.
In the Phlearn studio, in our office, we have a little hot debate going on between GIF or GIF.
It's GIF. We don't even talk any further.
Is it GIF or is it GIF?
It's GIF.
It's GIF?
Yes, it's a GIR sound. It's a G. It's GIF.
A lot of people say GIF.
A GIF would be a J sound, a J.
A J sound.
That's why it's JPEG. It's a GIF.
I am undecided.
It's a GIF.
I've got half of. I've got, you know, the little devil and the angel on.
What do you say?
What do I say? I say both because I'm undecided. Sometimes I say GIF, sometimes I say GIF.
It's a GIF.
What do you say in the chat? Is it GIF or GIF? Show us how you pronounce that, GIF or GIF.
Well, seeing that it's an English word, and we're using English phonetics.
But it's not actually a word.
With GIF. Well, it's an acronym.
It's an acronym.
Yes.
So does that change the rules?
No, it doesn't. It's still an English language. So if it was another language, we'd go with that pronunciation.
Okay, well, let's see what you guys say in the chat. I just wanted to stir this honey pot a little bit.
Shall we make it interesting and bet on it?
Make a bet on it? What are we going to bet?
Well, I don't know. Make it interesting.
Well, we'll never know the right answer because it's a controversy. That's the whole point. You're going to be right back. Okay, well, while you guys have fun with that, I'm going to show you how to finish up this GIF or GIF.
GIF.
I'm saying both, mostly because I just want to stir the pot. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to finish this up. So here in your file format, so remember, I went to File, Export, and Save for Web. Here in our file format, I'm going to choose GIF/GIF. There we go. And now we have a few different options. So our first option we need to choose is our color. Basically, how it's going to figure out your color. Now, my suggestion is to use perceptual color. That tends to look the best. So use perceptual color if that's going to be available. Okay? Now, here you can also choose to resize your image, and you can choose your looping options. So you can have it play through once, you could have it play through twice, or you can go forever. So I'm going to choose forever here. There we go. And now we also have down here on the bottom a little play, and this will actually play our animation so we can just double check to see how it looks. So this is all ready. It's going to go ahead and save this out, and you can see our file size down here is going to be 337.5 kilobytes. Okay, and that's not too large. It's definitely okay. You want to make sure to keep an eye on that file size because GIFs tend to have a very large file size. So oftentimes you may work with a client and they say, I need this to be below 1 megabyte. And in that case, you can do a few things. You can lower your size. That's going to be the number one thing that's going to dictate how much information or how many bytes are taken up by your image. So you can see if I take this down from 800 pixels in width, which is 337 kilobytes, I'm going to take that to 700 pixels in width, and this is 265 kilobytes. So we've reduced our size by quite a bit just by taking our width down 100 pixels. Okay, so that's a great way to lower your file size. Now, my suggestion here, just before we save this out, I'm going to click on this little preview box, and this will actually open the image in my browser. It'll open it up in this case, Google Chrome, because that's what I use, and we can see how it looks in our actual browser. So here in my browser, you can see this is the image that we just made, and we've got our flower changing colors. I'm not touching anything. This is an animated GIF or GIF.
GIF.
And it's going to continue to animate. So this is how we create one of these animations. It's a very simple process. Now in this case, I'm using adjustment layers to change the color of the flower. You can use different photographs. Maybe someone's looking this way, then you take a picture of them looking this way. You can go back and forth with the different photographs. You can do all types of really, really fun things, but the base information is there. You need multiple layers or multiple different photographs. Combine them together. You want to make sure you make that frame animation and save it out as a GIF file format, and you're good to go.
Very good. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
So we have John in Finland, and he's asking you to describe your workflow for a portrait photo shoot, from the memory card to import to culling and then the final export.
Okay, the workflow from portrait photo shoot to memory card, import, culling, and final export. That's a good question. Okay, so during a photo shoot, normally I just capture to a card, an SD card or a CF card, so totally normal there. Now I do suggest shooting in RAW. That's super important. That just makes sure you're capturing the most information possible. And I also suggest shooting with a gray card whenever possible. And shooting with a gray card will allow you to make sure you get the perfect white balance, and you can edit that in Lightroom or in Photoshop. So shoot with a gray card whenever possible. We actually have one over there. Oh, here it is. We pulled one after yesterday. So if you guys have never used a gray card, they just look like this. In this case, we have a gray, white, and black, but you just hold one of these up in front of your subject, take a picture, boop, and then take it away. And then in Lightroom, you can use this to actually make the perfect white balance, and then you can sync those settings, white balance settings, with the other images. So first step, shoot in RAW. I just shoot to a regular memory card. Use a gray card whenever possible. Just keep this in your camera bag. Next, I'm bringing my images. I have a memory card reader on my computer, and I bring them in and I import them directly into Lightroom. Okay. Then in Lightroom, I use Lightroom to organize all of my photos. I do that by folder. I do it by date, so I know which date that I photographed the images. But I also add the name of the photo shoot to the date of the folder.
That's your keywords or your...
I don't do any I actually don't do any keywords. I don't keyword at all.
Really?
I'm too lazy to do it. But what I do...
How do you find something quickly then?
I'll show you. You want me to show you how I find something quickly? Okay, let's do it. So let's jump into... I'll just go into Finder. I'll just go into my Finder menu. There we go. And I'll show you exactly how I find something quickly. So everything that I put... Let's just make this full screen here. All of the images that I take, they all go into the same RAID array. I've got a 24 terabyte RAID array that just holds all my images, okay? So that is also on our network, and it's basically just all in this pictures folder. Okay, so all the pictures I take are in this pictures folder.
Right.
Now, when I do a photo shoot, I import to Lightroom, and I have it automatically create a folder for the year and the month and the day, okay? So here's our year folder. We'll just go to 2017, okay? Now you can see it organizes automatically by date. So 2017, in this case, we have 9/22, so that's the date. And then I append the name of the photo shoot onto that folder.
Okay.
So it's really easy for me. If I want to find my employee headshots, well, I have the date and I have written here employee headshots. So it's really easy for me to find everything that I need. So it's organized by date as well as the name. Now, I use different folders for, let's just see some examples here. This is a project that I did for a client. So I have a capture folder that I use to actually put the images directly from my camera, whether it's a CR2, NEF, whatever. These are the raw files from my camera. I have my master folder, and this is where I put all of my PSDs, or I put my TIFFs. And I have my output folder, and this is where I put my JPEGs. So if I'm delivering a JPEG to a client or a GIF, anything that I'm outputting, that's gonna be in my output folder. And in this case, I have a client delivery folder, which these were the final images that I delivered to my client.
Okay.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
What do you think?
Like it.
You like it?
I like it, yeah.
I've worked with, this file format for years. We use the same file format studio wide, and it does work pretty well. So everything's organized by date, as well as we put that name in the file folder. and then within that, we have different folders for the types of images that are in there. So raw files go in the capture folder. Layered files like PSDs and TIFFs go in the master folder, and anything we output to a client or to the web goes in an output folder. Okay, now, next thing we do is I've got everything basically in Lightroom. My culling process in Lightroom, basically I just go through my images and I use pick rating. So I'll pick the images that I like, then I'll refine by pick, and then I'll do a star rating, and then I'll refine by picks and stars, and then I'll do a color rating as well.
So you do that in Lightroom that way?
I do all my culling in Lightroom. And if you guys are curious on how to cull, we actually have a great tutorial on Phlearn.com. It's called Lightroom Essentials, sorting, culling, and organizing your photos. So it's part of our Lightroom Essentials series that teaches you everything you want to know about Lightroom. And basically, we showed you guys the entire process that we use. So
we're at the top of our second part of the show now.
Oh, we're at the top of our second part of our show.
So, shall we go ahead and do another giveaway?
Let's do it. Let me just finish up this question.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure, because it's workflow question, so we want to make sure.
Oh, I thought you were done.
I wasn't done. It's okay. So again, shoot, use a gray card, capture your images. I go from memory card into Lightroom. That's where I do my file organization. I cull using picks and stars and colors. Once I'm there, then I bring those images into Photoshop if necessary, save them out in Photoshop, go back into Lightroom. I do most of my exporting in Lightroom, and that's how I deliver my images to my clients. And most of that, I use Google Drive to deliver pretty much all of my images. So there we go. That's the whole workflow. Thank you so much. Great question. Okay.
All right.
So what are we doing now? What's going on?
We're getting ready to give away another subscription.
Again?
Again.
Wow. What? How do we do it? What's the deal? How do people get that giveaway?
We are going to phlearn.com/live.
Yes.
We're going to go to the top of the page, click the banner, which will take you to YouTube.
And the banner says join the conversation.
Join the conversation.
Follow the chat. So how you enter this giveaway is in the chat. Okay, so if you're on phlearn.com/live, click the link at the top of the page. If you're on the YouTube page as well and you can see that chat already, then you're good to go. What do they have to type in?
When you get there, you're gonna type in "I love Phlearn," lowercase, one word.
One word.
Yes.
It's all one word. It's lowercase ILOVEPHLEARN. And I do love Phlearn. If you want to learn how to spell Phlearn, it's right here.
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes starting now.
Phlearn.
And what are they going to win?
A 1-year subscription to Phlearn Pro.
A 1-year subscription to Phlearn
Yes.
Pro, and they get access to everything, right?
Everything.
All the tutorials we've ever created.
Past, present, future tutorials.
Everything you could ever imagine.
Everything you want.
Plus Lightroom
All you
presets,
need, yes.
Photoshop actions, a bunch of exclusive resources. It's the best.
It's the best.
I am not a biased speaker, by the way. This is a completely unbiased opinion.
No, it's great. It's great.
So now's your chance to win a Phlearn Pro subscription. And I think one of the coolest things about this week in particular, it's actually the 1-year anniversary of Phlearn Pro.
This is true.
So we launched our Pro subscription a year ago. It's been fantastic. I've had an absolute blast with our Pro subscribers, and response from the community has been overwhelming. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. So we're 1 year in, and man, it's already, I gotta say, the Pro subscription has totally changed the way that I think about making tutorials. And I really feel that we're making the best tutorials we've ever made.
Oh, yes.
I really do feel like that. And the response from our community is similar as well. So I'm super excited about what we've done over this past year and what we're gonna be able to do with this next year and the year after that. We're just gonna take our rock solid foundation and continue building on it.
Very good.
I'm
2
really
minutes
excited.
to go. I love Phlearn.
Yeah, in that chat, just type in "I love Phlearn" and you could win a year of Phlearn Pro subscription. So basically,
A year.
starting now, a whole year for free.
Yes.
Starting now, all the way from a year from now, you get to access everything we've ever released, including all the boss tutorials we release from now to a year from now.
Very nice. What are you working on next?
What are we working on next? Well, I am creating a tutorial right now called "How to Master Layers and Groups in Photoshop." It's part of our Masters series, and basically a super important part of Photoshop, working with layers, organization, showing all the unique things that you can do with layers. Just the amount of information just in this
30 seconds.
layers tutorial is like, it's insane. You can do so much. So we've got a master series that I'm really excited about. Basically, we take every different part of Photoshop and break it down to a mastery level. So anything you'd ever want to know, it's right there for you.
Very good.
So we got just a couple seconds. Yes. Make sure to get in that chat, type in I love Phlearn. We are about to announce our lucky winners.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited as well.
Yes, this is gonna be our third winner.
Our
for
third
the day.
winner, yes.
And if you don't get lucky this round, join us at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, from 4 to 6 Central Standard Time, you guys could win again.
Yes.
This is so much fun.
It is.
I love doing these live broadcasts. I'm having an awesome time.
And we have a winner.
Oh, we have a winner?
Yes, would you like to?
Oh boy. Congratulations to Eric Larson for winning a 1-year Phlearn Pro subscription. Ding, 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 ding,
ding. Ding, ding, ding. See you tomorrow, Eric.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Everyone else, there's a 30% coupon for your subscription to the Phlearn Pro 1 year.
Exactly.
Or to a tutorial that you may want to have.
Exactly.
Please take advantage of that also.
All right. Yeah, just go to phlearn.com/live and there's a banner right on the bottom. So 30% off sale right now. Let's get on to our next question.
Yes, this is from Shai in Israel.
All right.
She has a lot of problems selecting hair. She says, can you please help?
Can you please help? Yes, we can most definitely help. All right, let's go ahead and open this image. Now, when we're selecting hair, I want to do this in Photoshop because this is where we have all of our most advanced selection tools available to us. So we want to select out our hair. Now, this image is actually a really great image for selecting hair because we have relatively dark hair on a light background. So anytime you have that contrast, if you have light hair on a dark background, dark hair on a light background, that contrast is going to really help out. It's going to really help out selecting hair. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and use our really accurate tool for selecting out this hair. Now, when I'm selecting out this hair, basically I'm just going to see about creating a layer mask with my selection here that's going to allow us to have so I can see behind the hair. Okay, so if you have an image that has a nice contrast between light and dark, in this case the hair is dark on a light background, I suggest using channels to select out your hair. So I'm going to go to Window and down to Channels. There we go. And the channels basically represent your image color channels. So we have RGB, which is a combination of all the color channels. We have our red channel, our green channel, and our blue channel. Now, what you'll notice is here in our red channel, the skin is a little bit lighter. And the reason for that is because we have a lot of red in the skin. Now, if we go to our green channel, the skin is going to be a little bit darker. And here in our blue channel, the skin is going to be a little bit darker as well. So basically, using these color channels, you just want to look for the one that has the greatest contrast between light and dark. Okay, and we're using this contrast between light and dark to make these selections. So let's go to our blue channel. I'm going to duplicate this blue channel now. There we are. And then I'm going to use my levels adjustment here on this channel. Okay, it's a duplicate of this channel. What I want to do is take that contrast and increase my contrast. Again, we're going to be using this to make a selection. So let's hit Control or Command L to bring up our levels. And I'm going to take my white point and just make this a little bit whiter. Okay, so we're making our background a little bit lighter. And then I want to take my hair or my midtone here and I want to make that a little bit darker. So again, my main goal here is to get a nice contrast between light and dark, and I can use this contrast to make a selection. Okay, so let's hit OK there. That looks pretty good. So we have relatively dark hair, you can see this, on a light colored background. So now it's time to turn this into a selection. Now I can do that by holding Control or Command and clicking on the thumbnail for my channel. Now what this is going to do is it's going to turn the light area into a selection. Okay, so the light area will be selected the dark area will not be selected. Okay, so now that I have my selection active, I can go back on my layer. I'm gonna go to layer, down to layer mask, and I'm gonna create a reveal all layer mask, which is just a white layer mask. Okay, now I'm gonna paint black on my layer mask. So let's paint black on our layer mask right over top here. Let's go ahead and hide our selection. We're gonna paint black on our layer mask here. And this is basically gonna allow me to just hide anywhere that was selected. And in this case, you can see, because I selected my background, it's gonna hide my background, but it's gonna keep every single little detail that I have with my hair, it's gonna keep that intact. So let's go ahead. There we go. Just paint right up to the arm here. Right around the hair. And you can see as I paint away the background, the hair actually stays in place, which allows me to put any background that I want underneath the hair. So basically, we're just use channels to make that selection. And now that I have that selection active, I can use it to cut the hair out of the background. All right, so I'm getting pretty close in here with the hair, just so we can see what we're doing here. And see, even here in these areas where we have all this little detail, we can still use the selection, and it's gonna cut out the hair from the background, revealing our transparent background behind it. All right, there we go. And let's go ahead and make a larger brush here. All right, so now let's say we wanted another color right behind there, or we want to composite our subject onto a different background. I'm gonna create a solid color layer. We're just gonna go to white and put that underneath our subject. And here you can see we just have a white background underneath our subject, and the hair is perfectly selected. So let's hold Alt or Option and take a look at the layer mask here. And you can see the layer mask is basically perfect. It's all of these individual hairs we have selected. So again, to recap this, what we did is we started off by going to our channels. I looked at a color channel that had a big difference between light and dark information. Then we duplicate that channel and use levels on it to increase the contrast. Then, to turn that into a selection, hold Control or Command and click on the layer mask, which selects out the light parts. And then I use that to actually just paint invisible on my layer mask. So I'm painting my background invisible, and the hair is staying perfectly cut out from its background.
Good
Pretty
job.
cool, huh?
Yes,
Thank you.
Very nice. The hair is always a problem.
It's always a problem.
Straight, curly, color.
It's always a problem.
Flyaways.
And the thing about hair is, like, it's different for everyone.
Yes.
It's different for every image. Like, in this image, it was actually relatively easy because the hair was just on a light colored background.
Right.
But if the hair was, you know, like on a complicated background or a dark colored background, it's a little bit more difficult. Yeah. Now, we do have a great tutorial on Phlearn.com, selecting and cutting out objects. It's a masking tutorial, and we show you how to do cutting hair out, even in very complicated situations. So, really, really great tutorial. Maybe we can link that up in the chat. There's actually an awesome example of a dog, where it's like a dog with like super fluffy hair and a really complicated background, and we show you how to cut it out like perfect.
Good,
yeah.
Good. So I'm excited about the next question, because it's actually for me.
It's for you.
It's for me. And it comes from Vasanta in Sri Lanka. Thank you so much. She's asking about our conversation yesterday when we talked photography with Corey. And I mentioned that I had a telephoto lens, 150 to 600, and she's asking if it's Tamarin or Sigma. And what would I recommend for outdoor and wildlife photography? And actually, this would be a really good lens for this type of photography, and it's a Tamron that I have, 150 to 600.
That's crazy.
It is. It's a little bit of a heavy glass, but you get a really good zoom. Advantage of using a lens like this is you don't have to be very close to your subject, of course. Even from Aaron's studio, I could shoot the Chicago skyline very easily and get the detail that I need on top of the Sears
That's right, the Sears Tower. Yeah, living in Chicago, we don't call it the Willis Tower.
Okay,
it's the Sears Tower.
The Sears Tower. So, for situations like that, not just for wildlife, but the outdoor shoots, it's very useful. It's very good for wildlife because you can keep a safe distance away from those hungry tigers in Sri Lanka, and get the shot, really good eye shot. Of wildlife, birds included, or pretty much anything from a distance that you're trying to capture. It's important to remember when you're using glassware of this weight that you always have a tripod. Very, very important to avoid the camera shake. So a very sturdy camera tripod, and couple that with a sandbag, because if
Really? You use a sandbag too?
Sometimes you have to, because the weather doesn't cooperate all the time. You may have a very good tripod that can carry this weight with your full frame camera and the battery grip.
Oh my God.
And then it starts adding on the weight.
Shoot me now.
Oh, it's all fun. It's all part of the excitement. So sometimes I would add a sandbag to the base of the tripod just to make sure nothing tips over, because this is equipment that costs a small fortune. You need to take good care of it. So sandbag helps. And sometimes you don't take a sandbag because your back's already collapsing with the weight you're carrying up that mountain. So you look for little rocks or little stones nearby and you support your tripod. So it's nice and sturdy. That would be a good tip also. Say, for example, you don't have a tripod. You're at a concert somewhere and you really want to get a close-up of whoever's on stage, and there's no place for a tripod because there's people enjoying around you. So then now you have to shoot handheld. And the trick is to tuck your elbows in and... Can I stand?
Yes, you can most definitely stand.
So,
maybe we should switch to the other camera.
I just need 2 seconds. So
You're
you
good.
tuck your elbows in. I tend to extend my hand this way, and I support the camera here.
Do you have your Nikon with you?
I did not bring it.
Oh, it's okay. We have, I'm sure, let me just find,
But
we
that's
have
all right.
cameras
But
laying
I
around.
try to extend my arm as much as I can so I can place this super long lens on my hand, keep it really close to my chest, elbows as tight as I can, and then take the shot. And that's the easiest way to do it without a tripod, and get that shot without the extra shake that we're trying to avoid.
Here.
Okay, so
It's a Canon. I know it's not
wait.
your.
Oh my
What is
gosh.
this? Well, let's show them how to do it.
So let's pretend this is really long, because the 600 is very, very, very long.
Maybe we'll show them from the side a little bit. There we go. Perfect.
Oh, it's my good side?
Well, it's just so they can see your
Right.
stance better.
So I tend to tuck my elbows in as much as I can. I support as much of the camera like this, and I keep a flat palm, so I grip as much of the lens in my hand as I can. I extend the focus to wherever I want it to go. I also then take a breath in and hold my breath, so I don't cause the camera to shake by my breathing. So elbows in, lens very firmly secured in my palm. I focus, take a moment, take the breath in, take the shot, and then I breathe out, and then I quickly check if I got it.
You're like a professional Olympic shooter. You know, people
Well,
who do
that's very
target
generous.
shooting.
That's
They hold the
generous,
breath
but-
also.
See, because I love street photography so much, I don't have time sometimes. If I see something interesting happening, I don't have time to actually go and take my camera and attach it to a tripod and get everything steady
Yes.
and take the shot. I will miss the shot. So you have to improvise. You have to be really quick. And then you'll find a position that's comfortable for you. and you are able to manage your equipment, and you get the picture. This technique really works well for me. A few weeks ago, I was in London, England, and I was trying, it was late at night, and I really wanted to get a long exposure of Westminster Abbey and the London Eye, but I didn't have a tripod. And I was stressing so much because it was so beautiful, and there's a lot of reconstruction going on Big Ben, and I thought, oh, this is interesting because every time I see it, it's beautiful. But now I actually get to take a shot of it while it's been restored. So I wanted this so badly, and I'm stressing because it's late at night, there's not enough light around me. I don't have a tripod. I want to do a long exposure. I have my 28-300 with me. I cannot hold it in my hand for 60 seconds. I cannot use the bulb mode to bring in the light. So quick thinking, I saw there was a short wall that was a little bit flat. So I thought, okay, I could work back as far as I can and place the camera on this wall. So I did. I took the shot, but then I had about this much space between my lens and the wall to rest on. So it wasn't going to work. So I took things out of my backpack and stuffed it underneath, because
good idea.
When it's sitting like this, there's a lot of space between. Stuffed it up and cushioned it so I could actually leave it there for a bit, and hit the bulb button, held my breath for as long as I could.
Oh, really?
And then I let it go, because it was a spur of a moment kind of situation. I wasn't planning for night photography. I wasn't planning for a long exposure. I didn't even plan to be in front of the Big Ben. But here I was, and I needed that picture. So I got it. I got it. But it took me 3 or 4 times.
You hit bulb mode? So you physically touched your camera?
Yeah, I was like this.
So
it's on the wall.
I've been trained to...
And like, and to... Okay, and then check.
So I was trained actually to do something else.
Tell me.
Because even just touching your camera...
It's not a good thing.
Is not a... So what I was trained to do is to do a couple things. If you're shooting with a DSLR that has a mirror, I always heard turn mirror lockup on.
Yes.
So with mirror lockup, the mirror movement won't affect...
stops the sensor.
It won't move the camera a little bit,
Yeah.
which could affect it. And then the other thing that I've heard is to use a like a 2-second or a 10-second timer. So set your shutter speed on your camera,
Yes.
and then use your timer, and then just don't touch it.
That could have been a good option too, except it really was low light.
It was really low light.
And I knew that even on a 30-second
exposure,
I would not get the shot.
Wow.
Because usually it's lit up and it's this beautiful gold color and it reflects so beautifully on the themes. But because there was so much restoration going on, there were metal bars and platforms, and it just didn't even look like it usually does. So I didn't have the advantage of the building itself being lit to help me with the light.
Right.
So I knew that
You needed that bulb mode.
I needed the bulb mode.
So what was your exposure? Well, how many seconds was your exposure? Did you ever look at it?
I think I tried a few. I tried 30 seconds, 45, and a minute. And then when I ran out of breath, that's when I let go. So I'll have to look at the metadata and get back to you.
So my next question is, have you ever used an intervalometer?
No, but I've used external
Shutter
releases.
So I bought an intervalometer, and it just hooks into one of these ports on the side of my camera, and it was like not expensive.
Right.
It was less than $50 for sure. And the nice thing about that is that you can set any shutter speed you want, because most cameras will limit you to 30 seconds.
Yes.
Which is like, why? You know, like, come on, software, give me 2 minutes if I want 2 minutes.
Exactly.
But
which is the great thing about the Nikon D850.
She's obsessed with that camera.
There's an app for it, except my daughter used up all my Wi-Fi, my data. I hotspotted her the whole time, so I had nothing. And
There's an app for the D850, so you can choose your shutter speed from the app?
I'll show you tonight.
And any shutter speed?
You can do anything you